Hello, 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 and welcome to our marvelous Monday broadcast of Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Welcome, everybody. For all of you who this is your first time on Miss Hope's Reading Hour on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Periscope, I am Miss Hope, and welcome to all of you to Miss Hope's Reading Hour. It is our marvelous Monday, okay? And it was a marvelous Monday. Um, while I was doing virtual school with my class, I had my blinds wide open, beautiful, looked beautiful outside. And I went to check on my plants, which some of them are still growing. Can you believe it? Even in the fall, while it's getting cool, still growing. And it felt great outside. Dare I say, it felt marvelous. So, how was your weekend? Hopefully, you all had a great weekend. You got to get some rest. Hopefully, my virtual school friends, you got away and didn't stay on the screen so much. Okay, you got to get outside. Sunday was really nice. So, hopefully, you got outside on Sunday. One of my students told me that she went to two birthday parties. I was like, did you now? She's like, yeah, I made videos and I took pictures of the cake and everything. I'm like, I'm so glad that you had so much fun. So hopefully your weekend was pretty great. Okay. And it is a marvelous Monday, another week of our virtual school. Hopefully by this time in the beginning of October, it's been a little over a month now, so hopefully it is easier for everyone, my student friends, my teacher friends, my parent teacher friends who are being parents and teachers, and my parent teacher student friends. There are some of my friends who are parents and teachers and still going to school themselves, okay? That's a lot. That's a lot. So, hopefully, virtual school is easier for all of you and those of you who are doing a hybrid schedule where you're at home sometimes and then you're at school sometimes. So, hopefully, it is much easier for everybody by now. Even though we want to be back with our teachers and teachers want to be back with their students, we want everyone to be safe and healthy. So, we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Um, Before I get any further, just to let you all know, any music or sounds as you hear that are played on Miss Hope's Miss Hope's Reading Hour, I do not own the rights to them. I'm just using them for our listening pleasure. Okay. Um, well, if you noticed, our teaser, for those of you who were able to see the teaser, it said this Otter be bit of a pun, a marvelous Monday. So I had these two books, and I was wondering, when am I going to read these two books? When? What am I going to read them with? And I totally didn't realize I would see them at different times. So I would see one book somewhere, and I would see the other book in between other books. And then I was like, wait a minute, they both have otters on them. So why don't we just read them together? Which is what we are going to do today. And my friends, if you missed the end of Belly Up, you're going to have to go back and listen to it on Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. I believe they leave it up on Periscope or YouTube. You're going to have to go back and listen to the end. It was wild. Okay. Totally not anything that I expected from the beginning of reading our chapter book for our older friends. Belly Up by Stuart Gibbs. I have another book by him. Didn't want to read it right after this one, but oh man, it was a doozy. Okay, it was good. And to add to the suspense, my other computer turned on me and it started to die, even though it was plugged up to the charger. And I was like, oh man. So I had to come back on my other computer, which I'm on today. Okay. But if you wanted to know the end of the story, you gotta go back and watch it. So there's a part one, and then it says, a continuation of Belly Up, which is the part two. And that's when we get to the end of the book. We ended it on a fabulous Friday, this past Friday. It was good, really good. Okay. But I have a new chapter book for you today. Usually I go through and I pick maybe two or three or four and give you guys a chance to choose which one you want to be read. This time I was like, we don't have that much time. So I wanted to go ahead and choose one that I had been thinking about. It was between two, but there was this one that I really wanted to read for you all. And I hope that you all enjoy it. Okay. So let me show you the books that we have for today. First, our Otter books. Okay. All right. So the first book is called Who Wants a Ride? You see the cute little otters? Baby riding on the mom. It's called Who Wants a Ride? This book is written by Robin Bernard, illustrated by Catherine Tillotson, and it is a scholastic book. Who wants to ride? So we'll read this one. And our other one is Otter on His Own. The story of a sea otter. This book is written by Doe Boyle, illustrated by Lisa Bonafort. This is a Smithsonian Oceanic Collection book. See, you can learn some things on Miss Hope's Reading Hour, things that you may have never known. And last but certainly not least is our new chapter book. This book is called Walking with Miss Millie. Walking with Miss Millie. This book is written by Tamara Bundy. And it has a little tagline under here, and it says, have you seen the world through someone else's eyes? So this book, I believe, will allow you to see the world through someone else's eyes, or the characters in the story will learn to see things through someone else's eyes. Walking with Miss Millie by Tamara Bundy. This is our new chapter book. I started reading some of it today, and it sounds like it's pretty good. We will see. Now let us get to our first book. Who Wants a Ride? Written by Robin Bernard, illustrated by Catherine Tillotson, a scholastic book. Who wants a ride? A baby anteater wants a ride. He holds on to his mom when she eats dinner. Oh, so we're talking about different animals who want to ride. Talking about different animals, not just the otter. Baby spiders want a ride. They crowd onto their mom's back. I did not know that. Look at the baby spiders. I did not know that. Oh, it's a little crooked. I did not know that they do that. You learn something new every day. A baby baboon wants a ride. That's how she likes to nap. So she rides on her mom's back and naps at the same time. Pretty neat. A walrus pup wants a ride. He rests on his mom when he gets tired of swimming. So a walrus baby is called a pup, like a dog. Baby opossums want a ride. They hang on tight as their mom climbs trees. Now, you know how Miss Hope is about rodents, okay? I have seen one of these before. Ooh, I'm so scared. And they don't scare easy. They'll see you and just look at you like, what are you doing here? A penguin chick wants a ride. She stands on her mom's feet to keep warm. Right there under her mom. Tiny chicklet babies want a ride. They swim in their mom's mouth to hide from danger. She lets them out again when it's safe. Can you believe it? Wow, that is so interesting. When they feel like they're in danger, they swim into their mom's mouth. A kangaroo Joey wants a ride. She looks out from her mom's soft pouch. So a baby kangaroo is called a Joey. You guys are learning so much today. I'm learning a lot too. A koala cub wants a ride. He holds onto his mom when he gets too big for his pouch. So koalas and kangaroos have pouches. But when the koala gets too big, they just hang on. Fun fact you may not have known, koalas are my favorite animal. I love them. I think they're so cute. Baby alligators want to ride. They can ride on their mom's back or in her mouth, like the chickens. That is so interesting. A baby sloth wants a ride. He holds his mom's stiff fur as she moves around upside down. Yes, sloths hang a lot. So they have to hang on to their mom while their mom is hanging on. A swan chick wants a ride. She snuggles in her mom's feathers. Yeah, they look a little bushy when they're babies, but then they grow up to be beautiful swans. An otter pup wants a ride. He rests on his mom when she floats in the water. So otters, when they're babies, they're called pups too. And they can be kind of bushy when they're first born, too. Who else wants a ride? All babies want to ride. All kids want to ride, too. Sometimes, listen, if Miss Hope could get a ride on somebody's back, piggyback ride, that'd be awesome. But I'm kind of too big for that. Most adults are like, yo, you're kind of heavy, sir or ma'am. All right, our next book, Otter on His Own. So since the otter was our last animal that we saw, okay, so this one has a dust jacket. I remembered what this is called. It's called a dust jacket. And I'm going to take the dust jacket off because when Miss Hope is trying to read, it's a little difficult with the dust jacket on. And it looks the same without the dust jacket on. You know how happy I am about that. Otter on His Own. The Story of a Sea Otter by Doe Boyle, illustrated by Lisa Bonifort. A Smithsonian Oceanic Collection book. So if you notice, the sound you hear in the background is of water because both of our books have otters in it and otters live in the water. So I was like, what should I play today for our ambiance? Why not some water sounds? So that is why you hear what you hear. All right, let's get to the story. In a sheltered cove at the edge of the great Pacific Ocean, Sea Otter Pup and his mother lie cradled in a golden brown bed of giant kelp. The foghorn echoes from the rocky point as the morning mist rises. Like a woolly ball, Pup rests on his mother's chest. He is 2 hours old, and today is his first day on the sea. How awesome is that? He's a newborn. So kelp are sea plants that live in the ocean. Some of them are edible. Some people eat kelp too, and it's very healthy. The sunshine of late winter warms the rocky California shore, but the water is cold. Sea Otter Pup's loose fur protects him like cozy pajamas. Mother keeps his fur clean and dry, rubbing it between her forepaws and blowing warm air into it with her mouth and nose. Oh, look at him. He's so cute. Such a cute little baby. Mother is hungry. She plucks Pup from her belly and plops him on the surface of the sea. She drapes a smooth ribbon of kelp across his belly to anchor him. Pup bobs up and down on the waves like a cork. Then Mother dives below to forage for her dinner. Pup shrieks for his missing mother. He hears only the sounds of the other otter pups and mothers in the cove. So she kind of uses the kelp as like a rope to keep him anchored above the water so he won't sink and drown. It's being a good mom. Up pops mother. She coos at Pup and props him up on her belly. Pup watches curiously as mother pulls the soft meat from a sea urchin she has found in the forest of kelp. When she is done, she rolls and tumbles in the water to clean her fur. Pup tries to tumble with her, but he is too young. He scolds his twirling mother with a piercing wail, and she comes to play with him in the waves. Yeah, the pup is like, Mom, I can't do that yet. For several months, Pup shares his mother's food. Mother breaks the hard shells of clams, abalone, and urchins on rocks she finds on the ocean floor. Crack, crack! The sound of her pounding carries above the cries of the hovering gulls who wait to steal fallen morsels. Yeah, those birds are seagulls. If you've ever been to the beach, you know about those birds. Because if you have food, they will chase you, okay? You're like, get away from me. By springtime, Otter Pup is sleek and strong. He can swim and somersault like his mother. He is eager to search the world beneath the waves for his own dinner. It is time for his first dive. With a great whoosh of bubbles, Pup rolls forward and pushes downward with his webbed hind feet. Pup has not pushed hard enough. He grabs a frond of kelp to pull himself to the sandy bottom. So he pushed himself down, but not quite hard enough. So there's that kelp again. And he kind of pulls himself to the bottom so he can get to the sandy floor of the sea. He's learning. Snails and mussels and darting fishes are everywhere. And crabs and limpets and sea stars, all for the choosing. Even small octopuses hide in the rusting cans caught among the rocks. Mother dives for her dinner too. Watching her, Pup tucks snails and clams into the loose folds of skin under his forelegs. Grabbing urchins in their forepaws, Mother and Pup swim to the top of the kelp to enjoy their feast. Another thing we learned, they can tuck things under their legs and still swim up to the surface. That would probably be really hard for us because we would probably drop everything. Floating on his back, Pup spreads his dinner on his belly and tears at an urchin. He snorts and sniffs, plucking snail treasures from his pocket. Sometimes he picks out pebbles he has taken by mistake. Thought it was a snail, but it happened to be a pebble. Throughout the warm days of spring, Otter Pup perfects his hunting and diving. He learns to pry the stubborn abalone from the rocks below. After each dive and every meal, he grooms himself carefully. Bits of food or oil from the huge ships that pass offshore can mat his thick fur. He keeps each hair spotlessly clean, just like everyone else. After you eat, wash your hands, wash your face, brush your teeth. One afternoon, Pup's mother leaves the cove to look for squid. Pup is curious. Following her beyond the rocky point, Pup feels the powerful breath of the ocean on his whiskers. Under the choppy swells, Pup hears new sounds, the chirps and whistles of dolphins, the whir and thunder of boats. He cannot see or hear his mother. I wonder if that's scary for him. Pup calls, but mother does not answer. When he spots her among the waves, it is too late. A silent creature streaks by him. The great white shark hurls Pup's mother high above the salty spray with a tremendous shake. Screaming, she slams down into the water and disappears. Oh no, a shark! I hope that his mother is okay. That's pretty scary. Pup cries and frantically searches the water for his mother. Suddenly, Pup feels a rough tug at his forepaw. Frightened, he whirls about, but the vicious shark is gone, searching for tastier prey. Mother at his side, pushing him toward Mother is at his side, pushing him toward the safety of the kelp. They race forward until the gentle kelp encircles them. Tonight there will be no diving. Rocking side by side, Pup and Mother sleep. Yeah, they gotta be safe. Stay away from that shark. Won't be diving tonight. At dawn, the cove is foggy and quiet, except for the bellow of the foghorn. Pup, Pup's bruised mother feeds lazily on the snails in the kelp canopy, while Pup dives alone for the sweet pink flesh of abalone. By summer's end, Otter Pup is almost fully grown. The world beyond the cove is full of danger, but Otter is filled with a new curiosity and restlessness. One morning, Otter leaves his mother. Out past the rocky point, out past the foghorn, he swims. Today is Otter's first day on his own. Wow. The end. Man, that was a really good story. It's a growing up story, kind of like what we do. We grow up, we stay with our parents, we learn things, and then we're like, wait a minute, I feel a little restless. I've got to learn some things on my own. And then you leave home. But unlike some animals who never make it back to their parents, we always make sure that we keep in contact with our parents because we love them so much. So, some things that you may not know what they are that I've read. Abalone is a hugging mollusk that clings to the surface with a large muscular foot. So, it's basically like it's like a shell, kind of almost like a clam, but inside a lot of people make jewelry out of abalone because the inside of the shell looks like a rainbow and it's really beautiful. Oh, a sea urchin. A sea urchin is a round invertebrate with a thin brittle shell covered with movable spines. So if you ever see, if you look at a video of things underwater and you see the ball that looks like it has all these little spikes coming off of it, and it's usually black, that is a sea urchin. Okay? Very good book. Learned a lot of new things today from both of these books. Who Wants a Ride with all the different animals and Otter on his own. So animals have things to learn as they grow up, just like we do. We are all connected in some sort of way. Now, my friends, let us get to our new chapter book called Walking with Miss Millie. I'm just going to start reading it. I wanted to read the inside jacket. Wait a minute. Let me see how this looks without the dust jacket on there. I don't want to rip this. I want to see if there's a picture on the front. No, just blue. Walking with Miss Millie. Actually, I think I am going to read it. Alice hasn't been in her new town long, but she's already made up her mind about it. She's sure living there is going to be awful, and that all the kids are hateful, and that her neighbor's dog Clarence is a ferocious beast. But then Alice starts walking Clarence, and she learns she couldn't have been more wrong about him. Strolling with Clarence and his owner, Miss Millie, quickly becomes the highlight of Alice's day. So, let's get into this story, Walking with Miss Millie by Tamara Bundy. Chapter 1. The day we drove into Rainbow, Mama was pulling out all her tricks to distract us, trying to pretend we hadn't just left every one of our friends 10 hours behind. Oh, Alice, look at my old hometown. See the trees lining the street and the nice wide sidewalks? It's all so pretty. Out my window, I saw a beat up sign that once said, Welcome to Rainbow. But now, with most of the letters faded, it only read, Come rain. And that made more sense in this dried up little town. I remembered Daddy saying that the only good day in Rainbow, Georgia is the day you leave. I used to laugh real hard when he said stuff like that. Then Daddy left us, even though we weren't even living in Rainbow. And I didn't think that joke was funny anymore. There's a lot that's not funny anymore. Up till the last month of fourth grade, I was mostly happy. But then Mama called a family meeting. Family meetings of the past had been for our cat needing to be put down, us moving to a smaller house, and of course, Daddy leaving. So I knew better than to think that meeting was going to be pleasant. And I was right. Alice, Mama's voice interrupted my thoughts. Look at the library over there. I used to spend so much time there. You and Eddie will love it. Look at how charming it is. It was nothing more than an old brick house with a wooden porch out front and a chalkboard sign with the words City of Rainbow Library painted on it. Underneath, someone had scribbled, Make the summer of 68 great. Dive into a great book. Yeah, this was going to be fun. And look there. That's Emory Elementary, where you both will start in the fall. Oh wait, don't tell Eddie that. I'm not sure they can accept him. Haven't talked to them yet. So don't tell Eddie about the school thing. I wasn't telling Eddie anything. He fell asleep over an hour ago. I looked at him, snoring like he didn't have a worry in the world, still clutching the plate he always pretends is a steering wheel. When Mama drives, Eddie does too. And when she turns left, he turns the plate left. He's a real good backseat driver till he gets bored and wants a book or some toy. But still, he never lets go of that plate. Back home, Eddie went to the Ohio School for the Deaf, got in a big van to go to his school every day since he was 3. Don't know why Mama thinks he will just be able to start going to a public school with me now that we live in this tiny town. Is he going to walk through the door to a new school and just start hearing? I'm starting to worry about Mama's forgetfulness more than Grandma's. When Grandma came to visit us last Easter, she got lost. She was driving to Columbus the same way she always did for every holiday. This year, she called from some diner way out in Pennsylvania. She shouldn't even have been in Pennsylvania. Even I knew that. I thought it was funny, but I remember Mama didn't laugh. She had this look on her face like a diner in Pennsylvania was the absolute worst place Grandma could ever end up. But Grandma eventually made it out to our house just fine. Mama drove her back after Easter and then took the bus home. And I didn't think anything else about it till Mama called the family meeting. Mama told us Grandma's memory was getting worse, and it wasn't a good idea for her to live by herself anymore. I figured that meant Grandma would move in with us. I knew our house was small, but since Daddy left, Mama had the whole bed to herself. So I figured Grandma could sleep with her, at least until Daddy came back. But Mama said no. Grandma's life was in Rainbow. She needed to stay where she knew people, where she'd spent most of her life. She needed to be in her home. Not sure why Mama didn't understand that's what I needed too. We turned onto Grandma's street. I knew we were on her brick street because the road got so bumpy it woke up Eddie. I looked at the other houses on the street. I'd been here to visit plenty of times before, but knowing we were staying longer this time made me look around like I was seeing it for the first time. The paint on most everyone's shutters and front porches was the same shade of white, or at least it used to be white. I could see it peeling on a lot of houses. It looked like all it would take was one big wind to blow the chipped paint off, and every house would be left stark naked. Maybe that's why the houses looked so sad. And Grandma's house looked the saddest of all. As a matter of fact, I never realized it before, but her house was a big frowning face. I tipped my head to the side to see it better. The two upstairs windows sticking out of the flat roof were the wide open eyes, the front door a nose, and the shape of the peeling white rail on the wraparound porch slanted on each side of the house made a definite frown. So there we were, plain as day, greeted by the entire house frowning at us. Guess nobody was happy about this move, except maybe Grandma. She was out to greet us as soon as our car door slammed. When the car was moving, there was enough breeze to keep us from sweating. But now that we'd stopped, the heat took my breath away. Eddie ran over to Grandma and gave her a big hug like always. Grandma can't sign to him, so she just talks extra loud like he'll hear that. Land sakes, look at you, she did, up and down, like she was taking inventory of Eddie's arms and legs. I think you've grown since Easter. Of course, Eddie did. Of course, Eddie did what he always does when people don't sign to him, nods his head to make them feel better. Mama went next to hug Grandma. But first, Grandma held her at arm's length and announced, It's always wonderful to see you all, but there is absolutely no need for you to uproot your entire lives to come here to watch over me like a teapot ready to boil. I'm a grown woman and I'm fine. And she looked fine too. She was what Mama always described as a perfect Southern lady, always dressed real nice. She only wears pants when she works in the garden, but any other time she dresses like she's ready for church, as if all of a sudden she might get a call for an emergency church service and will be able to say, No need to worry, I'm ready to go. And right then, as I stared at her, thinking anybody who looked that nice couldn't be in need of being babysat, she finally turned to say hi to me. Alice, look at you. She gave me a hug, squeezing me tighter than I wanted, and that's when I noticed she didn't smell as good as she usually did. She let out a high pitched whistle before she shook her head and said, You look more and more like your daddy every day. This was Grandma's favorite thing to tell me. Mama always says Grandma loves me, but it seems to me Grandma loves reminding me that I take after my daddy in every way. And the way she says it, I can tell it's not a compliment. By the time Eddie had driven his plate in and out of Grandma's house, by this time, sorry, Eddie had driven his plate in and out of Grandma's house. When he came back outside waving his hand in front of his nose, his face was all pinched up in a sign even Grandma could read, though she couldn't tell the next thing he was signing. The house smells like the bathroom at the rest stop. And he was right. Grandma's house stunk and was a mess, too. There was a mountain of Life magazines in the corner, piled taller than Eddie. Two televisions were stacked one on top of the other in her living room. And what was that smell? I saw Mama glancing around, looking all worried, and I hoped beyond hope she was thinking we should head out and just leave. But when she opened her mouth, instead of words telling us to get back in the car, Her words were shaky, like we were still on the bumpy road, bopping up and down as she said, Alice, you and Eddie need to stretch your legs and look around outside. I know better than to talk back to Mama, so I did what she said. As the back door swung shut behind us, Eddie took off driving his plate around the backyard while I looked all around. On the right side of the yard was Grandma's garden, which was off limits. Once last year, I kicked the ball into the middle of some flowers, and you'd have thought the ball hit Grandma straight in the gut. I tried to make the flowers stand up again. I even tried propping them up with sticks because I knew she'd be mad. But the more I walked around trying to help, the more I only messed the garden up. Sometimes I wonder what on earth you're thinking, she scolded me as she saw. Just like your daddy, she added before walking back to the house. I couldn't help noticing that the garden was drooping now and looking less like the perfect blue ribbon one she was known for. On the left of Grandma's yard was a big old oak tree I liked to climb, but now the lowest branch was too high for me to reach, and the tire swing that used to hang from it was lying there all worthless on the ground beside the tree, like it, too, wasn't happy to be in this yard anymore. Back in the front corner of the yard stood a rusty old shed where Grandma kept a lot of stuff for her garden. I wandered back there, hoping to find something to stand on to hang the tire swing back up. Maybe if I fixed it, I'd have something to do in this town other than watch the flowers grow, or wilt in this case. I entered the shed and found cobwebs hanging from every corner, draping down on rakes and a wheelbarrow and Mama's old bike. I grabbed a broom and swung it around to clear out the cobwebs so I could walk in. That's when I noticed a box in the corner about the size of a shoebox and covered with faded gold paper that lost most of its shine. Still, one lone sparkle caught my eye enough to call me over. Squinting, I could make out my mama and daddy's names circled and a heart scribbled on the very top of the box. This was a curious thing for sure. Bending down to pick up the box, I bumped into some stuff leaning against the old bike. The clanging thud of a rake falling echoed in the creepy silence of the shed just enough to make my heart pretty near jump out my chest. But what I saw on the bike was even scarier. The biggest and hairiest spider I'd ever seen was sitting on that old bike. It didn't look too pleased that I'd bothered its quiet spot on my mama's bike either, and it might as well have been challenging me to a fight over who was the rightful owner of the bike. I must have been staring down that big old spider longer than I thought, because the next thing I heard was a screechy voice yelling from somewhere in the backyard. Hey, anybody there? Anybody? I tiptoed out of the shed and looked in the direction of the voice. Before I could locate exactly where it was coming from, it started again. You there! Does this little man belong to you? Yes, you! Land sakes! Is the whole family deaf? That was my first almost conversation with Miss Millie. Chapter 3. I remember last summer Grandma talking about her neighbor, Miss Millie. She'd been her neighbor for a while, but they weren't exactly friends. Grandma said it was because Miss Millie just kept to herself. Grandma said the reason she kept to herself was because she was a colored lady. I didn't get why when grandma could I didn't get why when grandma would say the word colored, she would kind of whisper it. As I lifted up the bushes, finding the fence that divided the 2 yards, I finally saw Miss Millie. She was tiny. Mama would say she probably weighed less than 100 pounds soaking wet. She wore a man's button-down shirt and a long pair of pants rolled up at the bottom. I couldn't imagine how she wasn't melting from the hot day. Her hair looked like a bunch of silver wires, all joined together at the back in one heavy braid that went all the way down to her waist. Her face was a road map of lines. I thought Grandma was old, but if she was old, Miss Millie was even older than Grandma. Heck, Miss Millie looked older than Moses. Eddie didn't even take his eyes off her to look at me, and Miss Millie was looking back at him, kind of amused, like they shared a joke. Then she looked at me like she was determining what kind of person I was. At last she spoke extra loud. You deaf and dumb too? I knew some people called the person who couldn't talk dumb, meaning he was mute and couldn't speak at all. But I didn't like that word. My brother Eddie wasn't dumb in any way. But in all fairness, Miss Millie probably couldn't tell that my brother was smart since all he was doing, as far as she could see, was standing like a statue in front of her with his mouth wide open like he was a bullfrog just waiting to catch flies. No, ma'am, I kind of mumbled as I watched Eddie snap out of whatever spell he was under when he saw me, and then started driving his plate all over Miss Millie's yard. Huh? You gonna have to speak up, girlie. This time I yelled, no, ma'am, my brother is deaf, but not dumb. He's not mute either. No need to yell, Miss Millie told me. I'm old, not dead yet. And she must have felt that was the funniest thing to say because she started laughing, which turned immediately into a cough. When it finally stopped, she turned to me and said, so why is he doing that? But there was something in her voice this time that wasn't mean or anything, just curious. That's just what he does, I offered, realizing that explanation was clear as mud. She continued to watch him as she shook her head. Bless his heart. He can't hear a dang thing, huh? Not a dang thing, I repeated, like the sound, I liking the sound of that word. Was it an accident? No, just born that way. He was in my mama's tummy when she visited a friend of hers, and then found out the lady's kid had measles. After that, Eddie was born not hearing a dang thing. Miss Millie and I both looked back at Eddie, just driving his plate. I heard a bit of clicking coming from her mouth as she shook her head and sighed. Don't seem fair. Guess not. I heard an angry barking and growling noise coming from the back door of Miss Millie's house then. Whatever was making that scary noise had to be huge, and I didn't want to be around if it came out. Miss Millie coughed a little more and cleared her throat. So you must be Loretta's grandbabies. Yes, ma'am. I was waving my arm to get Eddie's attention. Finally, he looked at me and signed, let's go. Miss Millie let out a cackle. Woohoo! Even I could tell what that means. Do you know all that finger spelling stuff? Yes, ma'am, I told her, wanting to get away from the growling, which was getting louder and more worrisome. Well, sorry to bother you. I'll tell Eddie not to come back anymore. He shouldn't have come over here. It's not right. And with that, her whole tone changed and her face didn't look so friendly anymore. Well, sure. Sure, he shouldn't be just traipsing about other people's private property. Hearing or not, he better learn not to trespass. I got a right to this property, you know. I had no idea what I'd said to change her attitude. All I knew was that I was ready to hightail it out of that yard and hopefully out of Rainbow too, for good. We will stop there. Well, my friends, I kind of like this story so far. Miss Millie sounds kind of feisty. I like her. So, we are at the end once again of another Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Can you believe it? I never believe how quickly this time goes. So, our new chapter book, Walking with Miss Millie by Tamara Bundy. I do quite like this book so far. We got to find out what it's like to walk with feisty little Miss Millie, okay? And our other two books, if you like to learn about animals, and especially sea animals like otters, Who Wants a Ride? Written by Robin Bernard, illustrated by Catherine Tillotson, a Scholastic book. And Otter on His Own, The Story of a Sea Otter by Doe Boyle, illustrated by Lisa Bonafort, a Smithsonian Oceanic Collection book. Very good books today. Well, my friends, I'm so happy to have been with you today. I actually want to hear some more of our water sounds. Is that so relaxing? So, my young friends, my parent friends, my parent teacher friends, sometimes if you want to calm things down, you can play some sounds like this, some water sounds, some wind sounds, help to relax. And my young friends, don't think this is just for adults. This can help you too. Because sometimes it's stressful being in school and being around your friends and all the stuff that goes on with school. Sometimes you just want to relax. Listen to the sound of the water and maybe listen to a good book, like here on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Well, my friends, we have come to the end of another broadcast. It was wonderful being here with you today on this marvelous Monday. Can't wait to see you again on a wonderful Wednesday. And I will see you then on our wonderful Wednesday, right back here at 6 p.m. on Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Until then, my friends, have a great rest of your marvelous Monday. And I will see you right back here on our wonderful Wednesday broadcast of Miss Hope's Reading Hour. Until then, bye for now.